All right, wonderful. I think we're ready. Great. Let me make it bigger as well. Great. So the first question that we always ask is, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. Elif bana Türkçe sunum yapabileceğini söyledi ama benim içeriğim çoğunlukla hep İngilizce. So I think we can do it both Turkish and English from time to time because I think we have the participants here mainly from the language departments, and that will make our job a lot easier if I, use the target language while presenting. But from time to time, to make the things, clearer or maybe to highlight something, I can do it also in Turkish. But let's start this way. So today we're going to be talking about the ICT and a bit of journalism. But in every presentation or in every first accountants, people tend to introduce themselves, right? So you need to know me a little bit better so that you can build connection with me. So how are we going to do that? When I ask this question and use this picture, it might remind you like something a bit philosophical. Maybe I'm questioning my existence or I'm trying to share something more than just the words, but don't worry, it's actually not. I'm just going to show you some numbers. This is something that I always use in my first day of my teaching, and some of my previous students who are graduates and who are my colleagues now will immediately remember that I always show some numbers to introduce myself. And this is an activity. I use this now, not to show you all the details of my life, but to show you an activity. Think, pair, share. This is the basic thing about this activity. I show some numbers. I say, these are the numbers that represent something in my life. And I ask them to think, look at the numbers for 30 seconds. And people immediately want to guess, immediately share with us because we are social beings and we tend to talk, right, or share our ideas. And I say, no, take your time, 30 seconds more. They stop, think, and then I pair them. Okay, so you don't need to share it with me. Why do you tend to always share the answer with the teacher or with the instructor? Share the answer with the person sitting next to you. So I pair them up. And I give them an opportunity to share their guesses because these are pure guesses, right? They don't know me. This was my first time with them, the first session, the first lesson. So that's why they are based on their guesses. And this makes the activity a little bit fun because they can just say, maybe you were married 7 times, right? Maybe your age is 38, which is not fun at all. But for some people it might be. So this, and you see that there is one number that I'm really proud of, and I put, I somehow highlighted it, right, with the color. And can you guess, can you write in the chat box, which number does this one represent in my life? 23 in my life. What is this? What is happening? Let me try to see the chat. Which is a very important number in my life, 23. PhD could be. Okay, but what is it? Hometown could be, Rabia. Interesting. Because the hometown is in one of the numbers, but not this one. Graduation from the bachelor degree. Okay, some of you know me very well. And what is it that I always like to do? Orkun hocam, it wasn't PhD for sure. Travel, exactly. You see 2 words. Wonderful, exactly. This is the number of the countries that I have visited so far, which means it is still, increasing. So this was maybe a few years ago, 20, 21, and this year it has become 23 finally, all the countries that I have visited so far. So I ask the students to guess the numbers, they talk to each other, and number by number, we go over the numbers and we try to see their guesses. I do not immediately share the right answer. I try to hear as many guesses as possible so that, you know, we have like a discussion environment, because who cares about the right answer, right? The thing is using English as a means of communication in the classroom with a little bit of fun factor, right? And with a little bit of guessing about the teacher. And also, this is an activity, as you already know, if you are studying your BA in ELT, is an icebreaker. So we're trying to build somehow a rapport with the students, right? We want them to know us a bit, but we don't want to do it in a traditional way, because we know that the language should be a means of communication, a bit intriguing, a bit fun, so that the students can feel themselves involved in the task. So I did it, you talked and you shared with me, and let me know you a little bit. Just one sentence about you that is really important about you that I should know, or we should know in this group. Let's see. Bakalım sizinle ilgili en önemli cümle. Benim için traveling olduğundan onu highlight etmiştim. Bakalım Kübra kimdir? Burak kimdir? Şimdi herkes kendini sorgulamaya başladı. Bakalım. Who am I? And then the whole session becomes about that, right? Cycling, very nice. Okay. So Mustafa is someone who loves cycling. Mustafa, I think you sent it only to me, and they do. Wow, adrenaline, Elif, crazy. Okay, a few more. Cat mom, yes, Kibra, we love seeing your cat. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a cat. I'm not sure if that's really a cat, but oh, yoga, very nice, Eda, wonderful. Learning, yes, Thornton, I know. You're always around music, gaming, sleeping. That's also something really, really important. Dancing, Rabia, wonderful, wonderful. Oh, Elif, wonderful, lifelong learner. So am I, exactly, great. Okay, so now we know each other a little bit. If you were in the classroom, you would do it a bit longer, right? And the language teachers love this game of 2 truths and 1 lie. So we ask the students to write 3 things about themselves, and 2 of them are true, right? But 1 of them is a lie. So what happens? They write 3 sentences, and then they share those sentences with us. And while listening, we try to find out which one is the lie. So this is a very basic activity, not something that, you know, we spend hours of thinking. But I really care about this activity because it gives us very important message. There is a reason for other students to listen when you choose one student to share the 3 sentences. If you have already some experience in class, you know that the students only like to share their own sentence. They don't care about listening to the others, right? But by doing this, all right, I have to listen because I'm going to detect, I'm going to find out, I'm going to see which one is the false one. So we give them a reason to listen to their friends. And also another thing, it's very personalized. I'm writing about myself. The sentences are not about Jack or John or someone from, I don't know, a different country. It's really about me, that I choose, again, to share with the others. And I choose to also share the false one. I don't want to make it so clear. I try to make it a bit difficult for the others. So little activities with little, how can I say, little reasons, right, to keep the learners engaged, make it work in the classroom. So now you know me a little bit because of the traveling. And I know you that some of you love dancing, cycling, or doing other activities and love learning and being here always with me. And about me, some of you know that I'm in Salerno, I'm in Italy. This is a very beautiful photo of Salerno here. And here on the map, you also see where Salerno is. Italy is like a boot. This is the thing that we already know from our geography classes. But what makes this experience new is not that I'm now living here for the time being. The new experience is that I'm working with young learners. Can you imagine that I am working with young learners? I've spent, now Orkun Hocam is a bit smiling there because he knows how I feel about them and he has all the experience with the younger learners. I've spent all my life, 13 years of teaching, but to young adults. So I've always worked at the department, English language teaching, or the prep school. So that was the whole experience. And now that I'm here, I said, okay, it's not that easy to find a job at university. Why not try to see, because I'm a language teacher, so I should be able to teach. And then I started to teach here at a language school, and they gave me middle schoolers. Do we have anyone who have experience with middle schoolers? That person would understand. You see in the chat box. I'm really, really curious. Oh, you already, okay. Okay. No, okay, yes. Great. They're okay. They're good people, right? Naturally, they're not bad. Another comment has arrived. Yes, all right. But they are not teenagers, but they have their pre-teenage years, right? So they are almost there, and they like to do anything but language class, or probably any other class. Okay, but primary school students are not good kids. Right, maybe, I don't know. I'm really scared that my colleague Elif Hoca, some of you already know, would come and see that I'm, gossiping about the younger learners. So I had a bit of difficulty, a crisis, a breakdown, melting, so nothing went the way I planned. I was always thinking that I was a great teacher, an amazing educator. It's not because of the ego. It's because of the classes that I've been teaching so far. And it's also because of the feedback I receive from my students, or also I invite my colleagues, they observe my classes and they give also good feedback. So my assumption was based on something, right? But my assumption was based on the fact that I was teaching to older adults, not older adults, young adults, but not the primary school students. So which made it quite difficult for me to adapt, So I was thinking back, all right, if I'm able to do that, the material changes, the language changes, but I can do that. In the end, I couldn't, and I was feeling really bad, and I started to immediately call for help, right? And this was my question, like, what's going on? Am I a bad teacher, or am I a bad teacher education all these years? I've been training pre-service language teachers to become teachers, but in the end, I had this huge, to me, a failure. It was really bad for the first 2 weeks. And of course, I started to have a look at the challenge. So why was I having this problem? The differences between younger and older adults, right? That we should be aware of the developmental differences. Or the engagement. So probably I was able to get young adults attention because the thing that I was presenting to them was relevant to their needs. They were already engaged and relevant because they were going to be teachers. But with these kids, I didn't know why they were there, why they were learning, because I came here in the middle of the semester. So I really didn't do any needs analysis, or I didn't put any effort to know my students. Classroom management techniques, something that we teach, but we forget to implement. And another disadvantage for me was that I wasn't able to have all the rules set beforehand, right? And I was there, foreigner, I wasn't speaking their language, so we were not able to really communicate with them, Italians and a teacher who only speaks English. Another thing that with years, right, my communication style probably again was quite good for the young adults. But with the kids, even though we are very good at saying that you should be adapting your language, your communication skill, your strategies, etc., or techniques, me in front of that class with students who were not interested at all, failed immediately. And also, I learned that I should be more flexible with my teaching or with the things that I was planning to cover. So you have the plan as usual. We love making plans, but in the real classroom, it may not go as planned. So finding out the challenges might be resulting from these, I decided to have a look at, other sources to see why people are having difficulties in learning a language. And you see, there are so many different reasons for people to have difficulty in learning a language. Here, only 3% was the bad teacher. So either I was in one of that percentage of 3, or I didn't have to worry about myself that much after going over all the reasons for the mismatch between my expectations and the students. Maybe they were not able to keep up their motivation. Maybe they were feeling ashamed in a classroom where they were to use English, or maybe they didn't have the bad the materials, right? And here for the native speaker, who's that? Asking to me, here for this one you're asking, right? Yes, some people are really not happy about us teaching them because we're the non-native speakers. We're not the mother tongue speakers, right? Even though now we all know that we're thinking about the ELF, English as a lingua franca, and the ownership doesn't belong to anyone who's been born in or raised in those countries. But some people have still, the people are not the teachers, by the way. This one is coming out from the people who are learning, who are aiming to learn English as a foreign language, as an additional language. So you see that the reasons for people having difficulties in learning a language is not just about you, is not just about your method, is not just about the time or the materials. There are so many reasons that people utter for this. And then this takes us to technology. So I say there are so many problems, there are so many things to do, and can I overcome this problem by means of technology? And now we have so many webinars, so many books, and so many posts, right, on social media about the tools. Here, you don't see clearly the tools because these are not the things that I want to show you, but I would like to see if you feel as overwhelmed as me, that, 30 great tools to do, or ChatGPT or AI tools, 100 best friends with teachers, or other Google-related tools that you should be aware of, you should be using in your classroom to make it more engaging. Have you felt this way, or were you one of those that I really like to have as many tools as possible without, going into detail? I love the lists, numbers. Let's see. Every minute or every second, we see another AI tool, right, that we can use to teach our subject. It doesn't have to necessarily be the language, right? Great, a few reliable tools. Exactly. And then we're going to talk about why we need a few tools, because there will be some reasons for us, right, to do that. And for our talk, we had the ICT set as the main part of this because we are trying to refer to all the digitalized materials. So instead of going to AI or instead of going to other tools like Web2 tools, right, to cover all of those, we chose the word ICT, all the information and communication technologies that we have. And probably you are also using some of these or most of these in your teaching, right? So all the webcasts or emails you're using in your life, but to make it interesting for your students, instead of using just coursebook as reading material, you might be having e-magazines, or maybe now you have started to create infographics, most of which include the visuals, right? Then with less dense reading for the students. But here today, this is what I would like to discuss with you. I don't want to give you a bunch of tools to use, but I want you to have a look at the way we're using the technology or non-technology with a reason, a purpose, I would say. So there's a checklist. Number one, will the technology be used to enhance and support learning? So this is, I should be questioning, right? I should be asking to myself. If my answer is yes, then okay, right? If there is a no at the beginning, then you're not going to use that. The next question you're asking to yourself is, will it do something that I wouldn't be able to do if I wasn't using? If your answer is still yes, all right, continue. Will the students be in charge of using the technology? This can be yes and no at the same time. I do not totally agree that it should be yes, because the teacher might have the control as well. But I think the main point here is that are the students doing something with the technology? Or is it just you showing them something, right? And then are you sure that using technology is the best option? So the questions that you see here are repeating themselves. Why? Because we're trying to find out if technology is really the necessary means here, not just using it for the sake of using that. And also, if you're going to teach that in a classroom, then you need to think about the classroom itself, right? Do you have the classroom with the running software, with the internet, right? Or with the computer, with a smart board, with the speakers. So all those things have to be, if yes, great, wonderful, go ahead and use that. But make sure that you have at least some of these questions. As I told you, most of them are repeating themselves, but are answered as yes. Other questions, not just, if you are really, really sure, or if you have the necessary infrastructure to do that. Other things are about the outcomes. So what are they going to learn, right? What are you going to do with the technology or with the activity you're designing? What is your main objective? As language teachers in this era, now everyone is saying you can do this easier, you can do that easier, there's an app for that, there's an AI for that. But you shouldn't lose the sight that there should be an objective, an aim or a big goal that you're trying to accomplish at the end of that time that you spared for your students. And why? Why do I have to use the technology? What is it that technology brings extra or important than just my coursework or me with the students interacting? And do you think the time spent that, for the preparation or for the classroom is worth it or not? And how about your syllabus? Does it have a place in your syllabus? Does it fit, right? And what points in your syllabus are, by technology can be achieved? If not, then why should you be trying to use it? Is it because you feel, again, overwhelmed that there are so many technological tools going on, so many AI tools that you feel, okay, I should also be the one to include, but language teachers know a lot better than that. And the skills, right? So as a teacher or for the students, are you putting extra demand on the students? What kind of skills are they required to do that activity or to use that technology that you are presenting, introducing? Also, again, the location, the classroom at home, do you have you checked that everything works well in your classes? And how about the students, right? We should be finding out if they are only in the consumer phase, just, you present everything, they just watch and listen, or also they are doing something to, again, produce, right? As in life, we should be aiming at the balance. And the resources that you have, right, as Orkun Hocam mentioned, having a few, but really reliable ones that can fit, right, to your purpose. So that's why at the beginning, we have the outcome, right? So what are you trying to achieve? And everything else goes under that outcome. So this is going to be a bit, maybe a repetition of all the methodology courses that you have seen, but the very first thing for language classes, one of the basic principles that we share with you is always the input, right? We need to make sure, all right, the students are exposed to a rich input. Where does the technology come into play here for the input? You can have all the reading or the videos or other materials that would get their attention through the definitely technology. But again, keeping the other questions in mind. If there is already a course book that has all the input you expect your students to be exposed to during that hour, no need to technology. But if you see that the input provided through the coursebook or through the other materials is not enough, right? Not rich, not meaningful, or even comprehensible, right? For your learners, then go ahead for technology. The other one is to make sure that they are engaged, but not just cognitively, also affectively in their language learning experience. How do we do that? Do we make sure that learners are also effectively engaged in the task? Making the questions a bit personalized at the beginning, you are familiar with the language teaching, right? Presenting, practicing, producing, or having the warm-up and leading activities. So making sure that even right, the affective, could be about affective filter, exactly, but also making sure that students can contribute to the language that they are, being exposed to. Because we always say that, the schemata, background knowledge, finding out what students already know about the language or the theme that you have chosen. So maybe you are going to be you introducing have to, don't have to, or must, right? This could be your overall aim. But before that, you should be setting the context for them. So starting like, okay, we're at school, right? And do we have any rules in the school? Maybe yes, being on time, coming, going, even if the students cannot cannot use the have to or don't have to kind of the target structure, still trying to, have the idea of rules that we should be following rules and the things that are not so necessary. So asking questions about them, something that a place that they are familiar would be the house, right? And with the other activities, with the input you produce, you present a thing, and at the end, what happens? Then the production. So instead of making it, again, completely irrelevant, we need to make sure that we ask them to prepare with something with that structure that is relevant for them. So maybe creating an utopic world where there are rules that are set by them, right? They are going to be the ones who are deciding. Or again, if they want to change the system, the school, okay, so create your own school system and tell us what would be the rules and what would be the unnecessary rules there. I couldn't click. Third one, the positive effect, right? So the people who are positively engaged, right, who feel that, right, I'm successful, you know, the things I share mean something to my friends or to my teachers. And there comes the teacher being attentive, listening attentively, and also showing that their answers matter. Right? So the research shows us that the students who are able to actively participate, right, are like not just cognitively, by the way, right, enjoying being there and really want to share something about the young learners, the ones who are working with the young learners. You start a topic and immediately they want to share all the details of their lives, right? From their parents, from their houses, pets, etc. Because they are intrigued, they are interested in sharing. But of course you have the time limit and sometimes you try to stop them. But it shows that you got their attention. Other one, the mental resources that, why not? They have already learned L1, right? Why not help them make connections or making, even if the transfer is wrong and saying, oh, look, you know, this is how you were doing it, but this is how it is done in the target language, whichever language you're using. And the fifth one, I really care about this much a lot because we always talk about inductive teaching, right? Not the deductive one. So we are trying to say always that you set the context, you have the input, whatever language that you're trying to teach, you need to be integrating into it. But if your activities do not include anything that require the students to notice, right? If you do not aim at eliciting it from the students, then unfortunately, right, all the activities that you do would be only on the surface level. So they wouldn't be able to notice, okay, interesting. So if I want to share the rule, then I use this structure. And it changes from subject to subject. What are the common things? He, she, it. Okay. Then with the others, so with your questions, with your examples, with your guidance, you would be the ones helping the students. And the last one is the one for the students to use the language. As you see from the first part to the last, we're following a lesson that is staged, where you're presenting the input, asking engaging questions, involving them cognitively and also effectively, helping them to notice, do some controlled activities, but also at the end, make sure that they are doing some communicative activities where they can really use those structures in their sentences. I have shared all these with you because I wanted to make sure that you are with me on this. The overall goal, right, is always to teach whatever your subject is, right? It doesn't have to be like I just said English here, but to teach English as a foreign language, maybe there are going to be people teaching German as a foreign language, French as a foreign language, but technology will always be the means, only the means, right? So we're going to be serving a purpose, introducing the structures, language units, vocabulary, whatever it is, but we're going to be doing it with or without technology by thinking about those questions that I have previously shared with you. Some of you who have taken materials development course from me would remember these 16 principles. There are so many of them, and hopefully you can recognize some of them and be able to read. Like from my screen, I'm able to see. There's so many of them. Of course, today I won't be able to talk about most of them, but we should be having a look at one aspect and see if you are familiar with any apps or tools that could help you achieve that purpose again, right? We're not doing anything without a purpose. So out of 16, I chose the most relevant 5 of them. So one is always my favorite. Materials should achieve impact. How? Something novel, right? If you want the material, the lesson to be intriguing, engaging, you should be aiming at novelty. If it's not possible, at least add variety, right? And while doing it, make sure that the presentation itself is attractive enough. Maybe my presentation is too colored for people. Like this could happen. Or maybe there are so many things here that you can't read. But maybe for some others, this is fine. They are able to follow. And the content, thinking about presentation and other things, but the most important thing is to pay attention to the content and making sure that it is relevant to learners, or at least a bit interesting for them to follow. And the challenge. So we're not aiming at quite demanding tasks, or we're not also aiming below the average, making it, oh, okay, so it's too easy. Good, great, I can do it easily without even thinking about it, without even trying. And we're also trying to have activities where learners find themselves a bit thinking. So how? I asked the ChatGPT. So I didn't have to really think about the apps or the tools that in these days, this is what we are doing. That's why I didn't want to start with ICT and always give you like, this is the app you should be using and this is the purpose. I tried to share, right? Okay, someone wrote something. Let me just see that. Ah, right. I'm talking too fast, I guess, for some people that are not useful, that are not used to. I'm going to share the slides. Don't worry. I'll do that for sure. So here, I was telling you that I didn't want to share app by app at the beginning because I wanted you to have this perspective, very first one. Technology should never ever be the purpose. It should be the means. And if you know why you are doing these, the principles that I shared with you and the principles that I will be sharing with you, you can use any tool that you need to serve that purpose. So as I know what I want for this types of tools, I gave the prompt to ChatGPT that, materials should achieve the impact with the novelty, with the variety, etc., etc. And then we receive these. And this is now is the novelty for us, right? We like to ask everything to ChatGPT. But before this is just an AI tool, right? Chatbot that we are communicating. And I'm sure you've been using it for the last 1 year or more than one. But before this, we had the Google, right? So search engines. We, the people who knew what they were looking for and who had the purpose, were able to articulate that and write it in the search engine and then find, okay, my purpose is to allow the students to create short videos. So I'm looking for an app that creates a short video. Okay, and I also need something where the students can, be engaged and create their own videos with others. So then if I write these keywords, right, I would get the Flipgrid probably, or some others. So here are the ones that can align with the aspects that I shared here, and everything written under is telling us that materials can achieve the impact by making sure that, we have enough challenge, right, with a good content or the attractive presentation. Most of you would know or would remember some that who took some classes from me is that I love using Padlet, right? It's just a wall where any student with the link can reach and share their content. The content can be written, the content can be audio or video. And the great thing is that as it is a board, like a wall, we can read or listen to other students' written or recorded products. And also it gives us the chance to comment on them. So it is an actually virtual way of being in touch. Another one, the material should be helping the learners to feel at ease. So we talked a little bit about the affective filter part, remember? So they should be actively, affectively, right, engaged with the material or with the language learning. So how, without putting so many different activities in one lesson, or while you're preparing your material on one page, or the learners can be engaged and feel that, okay, we don't have too much demand in this class, by having something related to their lifestyle, related to their own culture, right? Or the materials or the lessons are designed in a way that helps the learners to learn, right? Take the risk and learn, not to feel that they are being tested during each and every answer or each and every activity that they do. Other things, through the content and activities, right? We need the students to really share something with us, not just, sit like you, inactive participant. So what kind of apps I could use to make sure that, I learn? I'm not going to go over all of them. And as you see, Padlet and Flipgrid have been repeated. So it means they are not serving only one purpose. It's not about just adding variety or collaboration, right? It can also fit to other purposes that you have in mind. But I really like to talk about the cultural relevance, right? So if you are one of those teachers that believes that language and culture cannot be separated, language and literature cannot be separated. So you would be interested in going to the websites or the apps that you have would introduce those things, right? And you would be bringing them to classroom and introducing these to your learners. How about this one? Making sure that the materials or the language is tailored, right? Adapted enough to make sure that it meets the needs and also the interests of the learners in that classroom, in that specific classroom. So how, the thing that I couldn't do at the beginning of my teaching here in Italy, making sure that you have a needs analysis, you understand your learners' interests and also their motivations for learning the language. The other one, encouraging them. So teaching in these days, I think, has become also a mentorship. I would also like to discuss this at the end with you. If you feel that you are kind of forced or you tend to do this, because we have so many books now on learning how to learn, study skills, time management things, right? And as you might remember, this was one of the reasons for the people who said they are having difficulty in learning a language. So we should be, in a way, also making sure that we have the learners self-invest in their learning, because we know that in the classes we have the limited time, right? Most of the time is outside that they should be investing in. And also the needs and the interests is another thing, that making sure the learners are, how can I say, I don't want to say forced, but motivated to have those activities where they are the ones discovering, they are the ones contributing and learning. And which apps could be used for such things? When we talk about outside the class, there was also Duolingo here, but I just took it out. Rosetta Stone is another app that people are using. I'm not sure if any of you have used and can give us some feedback if it's good or bad. Duolingo is one of them, right? For like self investment or other interest areas that learners have, and also right in the forums or discussion forums, right? There was one that I can't remember. Let's see what we have. So these kinds of things, right, might take all the learning outside the classroom for them to follow and invest more time. Engaging in the discovery, you see the activities here, to their needs and interests, making sure that the apps are designed according to the level. I like to use, for example, British Council website, because I like to have a look at the levels, like I'm teaching the business English. Okay, they have a lesson plan designed for the business English. So I take that, or for teenagers or for adults. But the thing is, whatever I take from those websites, and this is, I'm sure you're doing, but let me just highlight it once again, or the same goes for the ChatGPT, whatever the computer, the robot, the artificial intelligence gives you, you need to check, adapt, and use it in your own context. Whatever I share with you here, right, that I tried with my students may not work in your context. Or even in one class, it might work, and next class, it may not work. So we have so many individual differences and so many other factors that we should be always keeping in mind. Next one, fourth one, materials should expose the learners to language in authentic use. So this is going to take us also to a little bit to journalism, right? So authentic use, when we talk about the authenticity, things that are not created for language learners, right? All the podcasts, news, the novels, stories, songs, movies, right? Everything that can be used in the classroom, because we want the students to be exposed to the real language use. And then also, it's not just about the input, it can also be the output that is authentic. So the tasks in real life, what are we required to do if we need to use this language? I might have to talk to someone at a restaurant, right? I might have to do it by booking something, or I might need the language, like maybe to interview someone, right? Or just to meet someone at a party or somewhere. So thinking about these different tasks, different situations, and bringing them into classroom, again, with a purpose, right? What kind of language you're trying to master here, and matching them would help your learners to be exposed to the authentic language use. And some, again, suggestions for the digital tools that would align with that authenticity. And as you see on the right side, the news and journalism, lots of different websites. And there are also websites that are sharing the news, again, graded. But it may not be that authentic if the news is graded, right? Because they are trying to change the level to fit the learner's level, which is not bad, right? But showing, accepting that this is not the authentic use should be the job of a teacher. The last one that we should be talking about is that materials should take into account that learners differ in affective attitudes. So it's about me feeling that I'm not sure if I like this lesson, or I'm not sure if I'm into this presentation that much, right? And if you are to create the lesson, then how can you make sure that you can attract as many different people as possible? And this has been my philosophy in life. Variety is the spice of life. The variety, right? I have mentioned the balance, that was one, and variety is the second one. What should I be varying in my lessons? The texts, the activities, right? If there is something extra that my students want, great, provide them something extra to see them as motivated as possible. Or for the language learning, like some people in Turkish context, we sometimes have difficulty of it. Why are we learning their language? There are still students who are questioning this, right? So, bringing something, showing as a good example, or with the reasons. A text could be about why should we learn a foreign language? Okay, if they hate English, fine then. Let's not make it English. A foreign language, an additional language. And going over the advantages, so what could it contribute to if you ever learn that language? And other kind of activities that learners can, given can be given a chance to discuss their own feelings, you know. Let's take a session where we see where we're having the difficulties, what's going on, what is wrong, about the course, about the teacher, about the material. If they also feel that kind of threatened, this is what I do. And start, stop, continue. This is a great way of receiving feedback. You know, we love feedback. Language teachers love feedback to receive from the students. But sometimes we do it at the beginning, sometimes we do it at the end of the semester, which is totally late. You know, after 3 weeks, I can say, okay, get a piece of paper and write these headings: start, stop, continue. Think about the things as a teacher I should start doing that I'm not doing. You know, if I start doing blah, blah, it would be really good. Stop. I'm doing some things that are not working, so I should be stopping. Continue. I do some great things that I should continue doing, right? So this is, you know, continue is also a great way to receive some positive feedback and feel good about yourself. So start, stop, continue. And the essence of feedback is that we shouldn't be, you know, asking for names, right? And making them feel threatened. So they can just write it on a piece of paper. You can collect the papers and then later on read and, you know, try to see if everything you planned have been going well or not, right? If you have any other ways of receiving feedback that work, you know, go ahead and share in the chat box, please. So checking for their interests, checking for their needs with the needs analysis that we said, that can also meet this purpose that we have in mind, that we know we need to always take into account the different affective attitudes of our learners. And if you have this needs analysis, the next one can be checked as well, right? We can learn about their cultural sensitiveness about, you know, different topics. We always say that, you know, in class we should be not getting into any questions of religion, politics, or sexual things. So we're trying to skip or, you know, spare them. But also there might be things that we're not aware of. So by checking their needs and by receiving feedback from them, we might realize something that we couldn't, you know, realize by any other way. And other things is that, you know, I think you should be not only using the course books. This year here, I have started to use the teacher's book. They are telling us how to start, what to do, or extra tips. Of course, it depends on the course book that you are using. It should be published by a quite, you know, high quality publishing house, of course. But they're also giving tips about the intercultural competence, you know, make sure that the students are aware without, you know, sharing any stereotypes. But, you know, like if you're having the eye contact, which might be something positive in some cultures, and for some other, it might be disrespectful. So just seeing or giving that awareness that, you know, the same thing might mean different things to different cultures kind of thing would be good. So let me just, I can't click with this. Okay, let me also show you again different ways of receiving the feedback or learning about their needs. You can have the Google Forms also if you want to do it online. But I like the students to write, you know, they spend some time, then later on I read. This is me, I like it. But, you know, this is also a bit tricky, you know, we learn in a certain way and we like the things in a certain way. And unfortunately, we tend to do the things in a certain way because of our own background. This is the tricky part, is that we should be serving to the needs of the learners. That's why that needs analysis about their needs and interests and other things really matter. Instead of thinking about this is the good way, I believe this is the good way. No, which way would work for them, for my learners, should be the right answer. So I'll just show you a few examples that might be, useful. A project-based activity where I share the objectives and the materials. Let's go about the activity where, you're just starting as a lead-in with the journalism with some terms, giving the opportunity to learners choose the topic about the news they want to search. They go and search about it. The details are there, but I talked too much, so I'm not going to go into detail. And for the same news story, they might even need to interview, depending on your student's level, of course, and the time. You might assign them to interview or do some surveys. Then they might be creating the news reports, or maybe you might just ask them to have something like a presentation, something spoken. Review and editing part with their peers, right, would increase the interaction, also the language learning. We know that students learn from each other by using the language and editing. Then going over the whole process and giving them also a chance to reflect on their own learning process. So as teachers, we love to reflect on how we teach, how things go on, but we need to give them a chance to reflect on their own learning process as well, so that we can make sure, this may not be a way, this cannot make it sure, but this is your task, learning is your task. It's not my task to make sure that you learn. So giving this opportunity, opening a door for reflection might contribute to this. And then sharing it, maybe there's a school board, or maybe there is a website, or maybe you create a blog with your learners to share, right? This could be one way. Another one could be like a game where we can say the headline hunt, going more for the creativity here, asking students to create catchy headlines for the news stories, that where we have the cards that, world's largest pizza or alien invasion kind of thing. So they are inside a container, and students get one, and out of those, they try to create their own stories. And we have the headline master who's choosing, right, who got it most creative, or who was able to explain it better, kind of. We can turn it into a competition. If you're a teacher who is not for competition, who doesn't like to have competition in class, that's also fine, right? We don't need to be always making the groups compete with each other, because our purpose in the end is always making sure that the learners are using the language and having some fun at the same time. And the last one, I believe, in another game where can be a bit competitive challenge for them, so that they can act like a reporter. We might have it as a board, or we might have it also on a digital platform. So they might be taking turns and having a dice, and to determine, who goes where. So if you create a board where there are spaces that teams land on, and then, those are classical games that we are playing, right? And doing some activities related to the ones written on the card. All right, and there, there's if this is a game, if this is a board game, there's always a time assigned. There is always the turn taking happening, right? And then they are creating their news reports and then sharing it with other players, seeing like of course, there are always checklists that's prepared beforehand by the teacher, So if I expect my students to create a news story or a report, then I should be knowing what I'm looking for. So am I going to give a point to the headline? How about the sources? How about the quotes? How about how many sentences, right? All kinds of limitations or the directions, instructions should be prepared beforehand, so that they know, the learners know what they are going to do. In many cases, the students just stop and cannot start because the instructions are not clear enough. So what are we going to do now? I don't mean, their English level is not good enough. I mean, they are really not sure what they should be doing next, or with this, like how to reach that goal. All right, the teacher is asking for a report, but like how I should be prepared, what kind of report are we talking about? These things might sound really little, tiny, not unimportant maybe, but this is what is happening with the students, that they are questioning every little thing before they start to do. And some variations could be for this talk to, adding something extra challenging with special cards that we have in every game, or we might be assigning roles for each person so that they know what they are doing, or also we can create some themed editions of the games, right? Different genres, journalism, reporting, entertainment, news, depending on what you are trying to accomplish. So here, I'm ready for your ideas, for your input, and for your comments. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm trying to stop share. Yes, I'm here. I made it in 1 hour. Okay, not bad. Okay, the first thing I received was that we should be sharing the presentation. This is tick. I'm sharing it with Elif, and she's making sure that you reach that. The things that are the Italian students, somebody just wrote to me the direct message, the things that the students in Italy interested in. The student profile, interestingly, differ. They are not, they are less autonomous, I think, and they are more, in a way, too disciplined. So the teachers here are making sure that every step is followed by them, mainly with the primary school students. So if you are someone like me who like to have fun and you start your lesson with a smile and, believing in the holistic future of everyone and, caring for their affective future, then you may not survive that long because, they are used to a different type of teacher who is very disciplined, who just shouts even. This is being recorded though. I shouldn't be sharing such things. But they are kind of interested in, more or less the same things. If you have like a football and if you say that you are supporting Salernitana, then all of a sudden you become their, one of their favorite teachers. This also happened. Some thank you messages. Exactly. Marco mentioned something that activities. Exactly. Yeah, right. The graduates and the current students that I am not able to meet indeed in this semester, I would say. Yeah. If our title was more like getting you here to learn more about the ICT tools or the journalism, was a bit clickbait, I would say, because I'm not someone who can just give ready-made lists and just say like go and do this. If you use this, this is like a pill. If you take this red one, this is how it's going to be, or if you take the blue one, you're going to go that way. But what I thought I should be doing is that, sharing again the principles and reminding all of you, the future teachers, whatever the technology brings, whatever the future brings, the purpose is the same. We're teaching the language and we're dealing with the human beings. Maybe there are going to be technologies that will make us obsolete, right? Irrelevant. I don't know. This might happen. If I was, able to foresee the future, I would like to invent this ChatGPT and become rich. Unfortunately, I couldn't. So the future is unknown. I can tell you this much, and that's why I wanted to highlight seeing the technology as a means, not the purpose. And that's all. Thank you. Any comments?
Yeah, I just saw somebody asked a question about
Ah,
reaching the presentation. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I would like to interrupt if I may. We are NGO, Eurasia Institute of Research and Development. We do Erasmus Plus projects, and Open project is one of them. Thank you, Burcu Hocam, on behalf of myself and my organization for not rejecting us and having realized this presentation webinar series, fifth one. We did this with you. So all will be published on our project website for free, recordings and presentations, and there will be some learning modules. This project is mainly about digitalizing and English language teaching. So in that regard, I can share you with the links of this website so that you can reach, but it will be there soon after the completion of this webinar series. There will be one more. You can follow us via Instagram or website. So stay tuned. Thank you for your attention.
Awesome. Okay, I think I can at least stop the recording.